Hey everybody, welcome to Teal Tinted Glasses episode 33, where Hockey Jerk is going to tell us how impressed he is at Matt Barzal's 5-point effort tonight, among other things. I guess I just said hi to Hockey Jerk.
You can't see it.
But I'm being flipped off.
You can't see it, but my face is buried into my hand because
And I'm being flipped off.
how do the Sharks pass on this guy? Like you go back to the summer of 2015. What did the Sharks need? A game-breaking center. Anybody want to tell me what Matt Barzal is? A game-breaking center.
He's pretty good.
Who, if I recall correctly, was projected to go top 5 at one point that season. And he was there. And now I'm pissed. We're going to have to go to commercial or I'm going to flip something over.
Well, instead of going commercial because no one pays our bills, let's talk to Kevin Lacey. Kevin, how are you?
Hi, this is not a Tide commercial. I'm sorry.
Don't eat the pods, kids.
What's up?
I said don't eat the pods, kids.
Well, yeah, oh gosh. Oh man. Well, hi. I'm Kevin Lacey. I used to be on the show, and now I'm back. Finally. Actually, if I seem a little bit distracted, for whatever reason, there's a ton of college hockey on TV tonight. There were like 4 games on, which is like, when the hell is college hockey ever on TV? So right now I'm watching the Golden Gophers against the Wisconsin Badgers. It's 2-2. Sean Doogie is freaking doing really well for Wisconsin, actually. He's still 5'3", and I have to mention this now before I forget. There was a point where he crashed the net. The goalie was on his knees and almost at eye level with Sean Doogie. It was crazy. And anyway, hey guys.
So we actually have a pretty, like, I know we try to be like the NHL centric show, and actually I feel like today we have a lot of NHL stuff to talk about, and we just had half our audience probably turn it off on that note. So I'm just, I guess we could start with the Senators because Pierre Dorion, obviously the Senators are a tire fire right now. Pierre Dorion gets a 3-year extension, but something that gets swept under the rug was that Tom Anselmi, quit as the president and CEO. And the reason why this is so interesting is because Ottawa is just like hemorrhaged executives after executive after executive. Like they're losing executives at a very not normal rate, which makes you wonder what the hell is going on there, especially with, you want a good executive team in place if you're going to do things like, I don't know, build a new arena and move and all that. Like, you'd want a pretty good executive team in place for that, apparently. So I like how they just kind of buried the lead there. Kevin, I'll start with you. Like, what's your thoughts on this Ottawa situation?
Yeah, it's very perplexing because Anselmi, I think, had only been the president and CEO for like a year or a year and a half, and now he's out. I mean, there have been rumblings here for a while that Eugene Melnick might not be in the fold somewhere down the line, and the arena, no one really knows, and move the team. I don't think that's going to happen, but it seems like there's a lot of questions going on behind the scenes with the Senators. I don't think that has an effect on the poor on-ice performance for the team this year. But still, I mean, look at the Panthers. I mean, they never get 2 + 2 together. I mean, their 2 + 2 equaled -2 somehow. And I feel like the Senators are kind of going in that direction with all just shake up. You got to have some kind of consistency and stability back there.
Yeah, Dirk, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, like Kevin said, it's a very perplexing situation because if you look at the front end of that team, I don't actually hate it. And I think lately Matt Duchene and Mike Hoffman have really developed some excellent chemistry. And then you factor in, guys like Mark Stone and guys like Derek Brassard, who I'm a fan of, and that should be a pretty lethal offense top to bottom, but then you get to that back end and it's not very pretty. And I think a lot of that has caused some overreacting and some, short-sighted decision making that, like you said, is causing these executives to question whether or not they want to stick around. I mean, Daniel Alfredson left the organization not too long ago without any real reason why, and then now their president steps down today. So it's it's a very perplexing situation. I'm curious to see how it resolves because, like I said, I think if a couple changes are made, I think that team can be right back on track. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
I feel like a big part of the problem is, at least earlier in the season, was Father Time had started catching up to Craig Anderson a bit.
Yeah, that's another problem too. It seemed like every time people were starting to sour on him, he would turn it around and string together a couple solid efforts, and then it's like, okay, here's another extension.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but it's definitely it's interesting because I'd love to be like a fly on the wall just to see what's going on. Like I think Melnick's got an interesting personality, to put it politely, I guess, where it really makes you wonder like what it's like to work under him based on just some of the things that he does and some of the things he says, because he's not exactly a quiet owner. I mean, he'll go in the media and shoot his mouth off pretty much all the time. Like, I'm sure he gives Batman fits, but doesn't always say the smartest things either when he's out. Like, he sometimes could probably need a muzzle. But yeah, I don't understand the situation on Ottawa. I think that the product on the ice has kind of shielded them from, the kind of not completely shield them, but it obviously, if the product on the ice is okay and you're doing well and you're within a goal of the Stanley Cup final, people tend to ignore your off ice issues a little bit more. And I think now that they're kind of a dumpster fire, everything's kind of just getting dragged out into light, and it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, especially with the new arena that they're working on. Like, I don't know if that's been finalized or not yet, and just going forward, it's gonna be really interesting to see what they do in Ottawa, because I don't know what they do.
The curious thing is going to be what city is this new arena located in?
Right.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't think they move.
I do think, though, that with all the I can't find the words right now. Like I said, I'm distracted by this college game. I think that with all the instability in the back office, though, giving Pierre Dorion the 3-year contract extension today kind of helps with some of that, and especially with this team is clearly going into a rebuild, and so it's either you gotta let him go now, which I don't really know why you would let go of Pierre Dorion. It's only, I believe, his second year, and they went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Or you give him the extension and give him some time to actually rebuild this team and follow through on the rebuild. So I think the extension in that regard was is warranted. But they're gonna have to start this off soon, otherwise, because they need to at least be heading upward next year if they are going to rebuild. They can't fall into like the Flyers status, or hell, even the Sharks at times, where it's like, quit trying to hang on, just burn it down and start over.
Yeah. An interesting game tonight. Final score was the Islanders beating the Red Wings 7-6 in overtime. If you like goals, that was a good game. After the Isles they were losing 5-2. The interesting thing here is like, this is a team that's also really perplexing. Like, what direction do you go if you're the Islanders, right? Like, you don't, obviously you have to figure out what you're going to do with John Tavares. And if John Tavares doesn't say, like, unless John Tavares comes out and says, I'm not coming back, you can't just deal him at the deadline. Unless you know for sure he's not coming back.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like the Islanders were kind of going up for a while, and then a couple bad contracts here, couple guys leaving there, and they're one of those bubble teams. And I mean, I'm looking at the standings right now, and they're technically in a playoff spot, but I mean, they have only won 27 games and they've lost 29 between regulation and overtime losses. And as potent as their offense has been, they have a minus 16 goal differential, which, obviously is not helped by, games like tonight. But Islanders, I feel like you're going to see this with a lot of teams, and I feel like we've seen it with a lot of teams in general, where teams are maybe a guy or two away from being a legit contender, at least for the playoffs, and then something happens and there's almost like an overreaction. Like I think you look at Ottawa and you look at the Islanders too, and I know we're going to talk about the Rangers later, but even them, you make one or two different moves and it's a very different story. That being said,
Janix in the chat brings up an interesting point, though. Is that one guy a goalie?
Yeah. I mean,
because their goaltending's been, not great.
I think this was coming eventually. I think, for me anyway, Thomas Greiss has always been a backup, and the last year or two, I can't remember how long he's been their starting goalie. For me, it's been like, when is the straw? What's the phrase about the camel's back or whatever? You know what I'm talking about.
Camel's back.
Yeah, that thing. Like, I figured eventually Thomas Greiss would become Thomas Greiss again. And now that has happened, they're going to need to find a goalie because they clearly aren't going with Halak.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I'm looking at this because Gen X, says like look at the goal difference. I mean, this is a team that has scored 191 goals this season. They shouldn't be losing.
Yeah, and Josh Bailey was an all-star. Josh Bailey, really?
I believe Josh Bailey's still top 5 in the league in assists. I could be wrong,
but
but
that's what I mean. What?
I think they're the number. If I'm reading this right, they're the number 2 team in goals for in the entire NHL, second only to Tampa.
Evidently, we're not privy to this kind of information, but it is curious to know whether or not the Islanders did any sort of due diligence on, what it could take to get a Marc-Andre Fleury out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I think you can't do much. I think that if I don't know. I don't know what you do. I mean, with John Tavares is obviously the big domino that needs to fall first, right? And that's going to signify whether you're, but if you're keeping John Tavares, you've got Matt Barzal, who 5-point night for his, 5-point night third time in the season. He's had 5 points in a night.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
They've got the players there. It seems to me like unless, even if Tavares leaves, I mean, you still got some players that you can build around. But I just until that Tavares domino falls, what do? You can't really do much, right?
And see, for all that's being said about John Tavares, I don't think nearly enough is being said about Josh Bailey. I mean, not to spread around the tea leaves too much, but I mean, I see a Josh Bailey being a fit for a team like the Sharks or, a handful of other teams as well. And I think more than anything, I think that Josh Bailey is what's going to do it, because that line, along with Anders Lee, they've been one of, if not the highest scoring line all season. And I almost wonder if Josh Bailey goes, if John Tavares is all of a sudden not feeling the warm and fuzzies. You know what I mean?
Right. It's going to be interesting. I don't think Garth Snow's going to just blow a bunch of assets on a rental. But I don't think he's going to sell either.
We don't know that, though. Garth Snow tends to do that.
I don't know. I'm not sold that's what they're gonna do. I think this is another team that could stand pat. There's a lot of. I feel like there's just a lot of. There's too many sellers and not enough buyers this year. Is how I feel.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of teams that I feel like, parity in most cases in the NHL has been very good. I feel like for this season, the parity has been bad because it's been a lot of mediocrity around the league. I mean, look at the Sharks. So entering last night, the Sharks were second in the division. And we're talking about, will they make the playoffs even? Well, if that's your second place team in your division, now tied, like,
But yeah, and then to jump onto that too, say the Sharks lose 2 games in a row and whoever's in 5th place wins 2 games in a row, all of a sudden the Sharks could be in 5th, which, like you said, it's parity, but it's bad parity. And I mean, you know, you could put 2 crappy teams against each other and somebody's got to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm not sure. The Islanders are the like, to me, they're the big mystery because, you know, it really, like I just keep saying, it comes down to Tavares. I don't know if they're a buyer. I don't know if they're a seller. They might just stand pat and just, you know, if they get in, they get in. I wouldn't be shocked. Now,
I don't think that'd be the worst course of action. I feel like
I don't think it's the worst course of action for a lot of teams, to be completely honest. Like I said, I think there's way more sellers than buyers this year.
Yeah. You know who should sell? The Rangers.
Yeah. Well, they plan to, apparently. I mean, if you believe Larry Brooks, I mean, apparently there's everyone can go. I mean, they've asked Nash to give him his no trade list. You know, there's rumors, obviously, Zuccarello could be had for the right price. And then, you know, they sent Brandon Smith to Hartford Wolfpack, after signing him to that deal just recently. I mean, man. Yeah, if there's a team that needs to sell, it's the Rangers at this point. The only thing I guess that I question is, what about Lundqvist? Because, I mean, Lundqvist, like, to his credit, has been really above what I think most people have expected him to be at this point in his deal. But how long is he going to maintain that? Like, if, you know, are you going to, you know, start selling off all your assets, and, you know, is there going to be a still Henrik Lundqvist there when they're back? And I don't know what's in the Rangers farm system as far as goaltending goes, but Henrik Lundqvist would obviously be a hard guy to replace.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a hard guy to replace, but at the same time, he's, you know, I have to think he's going to be a hard guy to trade. I mean, three years after this year at $8.5 million a season, when you're 35 years old, you know, as a goalie, no less. I mean, that's a lot to you know, put all your chips into, and it's an interesting case because, you know, he's having I don't want to say he's like an all-star, but he's having a good year this year. And, you know, you have to wonder, like, okay, was last year kind of just an anomaly and he's bouncing back, or is he just going to be a, you know, hot and cold goalie for the rest of his career? I don't know. Unfortunately, I think the Rangers are stuck with him.
I think, but you look at, like, I look at the standings with the Rangers, right? And I look at their record, like, so much, like, Lundqvist, to me, like, he's been, like, any Rangers game that I've watched, like, Lundqvist has been easily their best player. Every game, any Rangers game that I've watched this year, Lundqvist has been their best player. Like, without Lundqvist this year, this team is fighting with Buffalo.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's that bad. I think Lundqvist really has made their inadequacies a little less. I mean, the Rangers are still obviously on the wrong side of the slope, but I think Lundqvist has at least cushioned that a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Kev?
Henrik Lundqvist to me is like the Shane Doan of goalies at this point. Like, I don't think he's ever going to go anywhere, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. That would mean that's disappointing that Henrik Lundqvist will never win a Stanley Cup. Because I think there's enough goaltending around the league that a team's not really going to be looking to add a guy like Lundqvist with that contract at that age to be a backup goalie.
No.
Unless their starter gets injured for the rest of the season, then I think Lundqvist may be stuck with the Rangers just for the fact there's no other options. No
Right.
other teams that would want to take him.
Yeah, and I know Gen X is asking, who's in the system to replace Henrik. I honestly, I'm not
For what?
for the goaltending. I don't know what's
Nothing.
in the Rangers.
There's
goaltending
nothing.
pipe.
Well, there's Shesterkin, Igor Shesterkin, who was, I believe, an early second or late first round pick for the Rangers, who's pretty good. But outside of that, there's really nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the Rangers do. It's going to see, it's going to be interesting because, hey, guys, where does this leave Alain Vigneault? If this turns into like a complete rebuild situation, is Alain Vigneault the guy still? I don't know. I mean, I know we've already failed to get him fired once this season, so I don't know if I want to tempt fate here, but
we didn't have the mojo we had last season.
No, we didn't have the mojo we had last season. We didn't get anyone fired this season, but it's going to be interesting to see. What does Alain Vigneault do? Like, what happens with him? Like I think that's an interesting kind of the under the radar question that I'm curious to seeing what happens at the end of the season with him.
Well, and somebody asked the GM about AV, and he was very defensive when answering that question.
Right.
So it makes me think that even he doesn't know. Like, I could see it be a situation where AV kind of sees the rebuild through and sees the tough times through, and then once the Rangers are good,
Mm-hmm.
with in air quotes, I think ultimately is when they get some new blood behind the bench. But I don't understand this rebuild. I mean, yes, the Rangers are having a bad year,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some very questionable pieces on that team, no doubt, but there's also some solid pieces on that team. I don't know why you tear it down. I mean, you're probably not winning the Stanley Cup this year for sure, but it's like I said about the Islanders and even Ottawa. You make a couple different moves, and I think, especially in the Eastern Conference, I think you can be right back in the conversation.
In the Metro, though? Like, if you're in the Atlantic, I completely agree. If the Atlantic, you get a couple pieces and you're good to go. I'm not sold that that's the case in the Metro.
I mean, it all depends on what happens, with their defense. I mean, they're obviously looking to Shea, they're looking to D'Angelo as to kind of be guys of the future. It depends on what happens with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, can Zuccarello sustain the way he's played? Can guys like Zibanejad and Kevin Lacey's favorite player, Buchnevich, make that next step into being, like an upper echelon top six forward? I mean, there's a lot of guys that you kind of need to wait and see on, and I think that should deter them from just burning everything down.
So Rick Nash's name obviously is on the big trade list now. Obviously, the first thing that happens when Rick Nash's name's out there is, oh my God, he's gonna come to the Sharks, because Rick Nash to the Sharks must be always. Do you I personally, I have no interest in Rick Nash, because I know some people are gonna obviously point back to the lockout season where they played so well and they won the Spangler Cup together and blah blah blah, but this is over a decade ago at this point, and we don't even know, I'm pretty optimistic we'll see Joe Thornton again this season, but there's no guarantee we would see Joe Thornton again this season,
and he was already really slowed down by the last injury. I mean, who knows what skating condition he's going to be in if he does come back this season.
I don't think this is a move Doug Wilson's, especially with the asking cost. Now, we all know that when a team puts out there, this is what we want, you shoot for the moon and settle for something in the middle, because that's, unless some GMs will stick by their guns, but generally you're going to shoot higher and obviously, settle for a more reasonable offer. I don't know, how the Sharks could be buyers, period, at this point. With what? You're going to throw away your first round pick and still might miss the playoffs? Give me a break. I can't wrap my head around that. And I'm not saying the Sharks are for sure going to miss the playoffs, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, it will, and especially like we said earlier, how tight the Pacific is. I mean, second to fifth place is separated by literally a win, you know?
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, we saw it a couple years ago where the Sharks were in a playoff spot for a good chunk of time, and then, like I said, that one win, which just so happened to be the Stadium Series game, knocks the Sharks into the outside and never make it back. So,
Death spiral.
yeah, exactly. The Sharks need to get what they can for some guys, but
Yeah.
I think with the Sharks, you just stand pat unless it's like a seriously, unless between now and the trade deadline they win every game, you know. But
I think
that's
you could. I think you
could.
could sell around the edges. Like, I mean, Yannick Hansen was quoted today, being like, obviously this isn't really working for anyone, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the quote in front of me, but basically it's like, yeah, if I'm gone, I'm gone. It's not up to me, but this situation really isn't good for either of us. So, I mean, I feel like you could make some moves like that.
Yeah.
You could sell you can sell stuff around the periphery. Obviously, Paul Martin's sitting in the Barracuda. You have Yannick Hansen who's sitting in the press box. So I think the Sharks, if they can get a box of pucks for one of those guys, then great, do it. But I don't want to see them, I don't know. It's hard because it's like I like some of the kids in the system, but like I like them, but I accept that when you look at other prospect pools that these guys don't stack up very well.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, going back to the Rick Nash thing, in kind of in relation, the only way the Sharks should be going for Rick Nash is if they move a money contract like Bodker over to the Rangers. Like, that's the only reason. Because Nash, yeah, it's going to be prorated because it's the last year of a monster deal, but it's still, you're going to be paying a decent amount of salary. So unless you're moving salary out, what really is the upside for bringing in a guy like Nash? The periphery moves are perfect to me. Hansen, I know Hansen hasn't worked out, and I was on Two-Town USA After Dark last night, and I said, let's move Hansen for something cheap. And they said, let's just wait for him to hit free agency. Why?
Man, if you can get something for him, get something.
Benefit is that? Get a seventh. I don't care. Like the Sharks. The only rounds they draft well are in the sixth and seventh round.
Sixth, seventh.
Could you imagine if teams are like, "Oh, the Sharks suck in the first round. We'll just throw them a first."
Wow. Wow.
But then they might take the guy you want in the second.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, like, I think that the thing with Nash is not that I personally, I'm not even entertaining this, but I think unless you know that Joe Thornton for sure is going to be back, like, why would you do it? If you can't guarantee Joe Thornton's going to come back this season, I think he's going to be back, but I'm not a doctor. I've not seen the scans. I didn't do the surgery. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just trying to be the glass half full guy for once, right? But, like, I don't know. I just think of, like, unless you know Thornton's going to be back, like, you don't buy it all. Period.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the Sharks need to stand pat here, especially when you consider what you've gotten out of guys like Tierney and LeBanc and Timo Meier. I mean, you go out there and trade for a Rick Nash or even a Michael Grabner. It's you're basically telling your young guys who have taken the next step that step wasn't big enough, and that's not the right move there. Like I said, the only way you make a trade for a guy like that is if something catastrophic happens. Like if somebody, like, I don't want to say any names because I don't want to put anything out there, but if somebody gets a major injury, like it's that it should be your last resort. It should not be your first choice.
All right, guys. We have to ask ourselves a very important question.
Well, you mentioned injury, right?
Yep. I have to ask a very important question before we talk about that, though.
Oh.
Is it time to launch Brent Burns out of a cannon?
Oh, jeez.
Because I know Twitter wants to pretty badly.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Brent. You know what? Brent Burns on D last night.
Oh, is he getting props? What's happening?
I think so.
No, I'm just walking out of the room.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So in other words, not there.
Not there.
Yeah.
It was like, and again,
I
I just
lost my mind at the game when he made that play with 4 minutes left.
Both of those goals in the third, like he just got pylon so many times, And I know Steve asked if obviously the question that always comes up with Brent Burns, because he was there for half a season, was, is it time to move Burns back to forward? And I honestly, normally I'm like so anti this question that I will go into like a usual rage about this question because it drives me so crazy. But in this case, I don't even know anymore. I don't even know. Like, you're signed him long term. He's gonna make all the money regardless of whether he's playing bad defense or playing. I don't know. I feel like, what's the alternative though? Who plugs into that spot though? That's the problem, right? Yeah. Like, is Dylan DeMello a 3-4 guy? Or sorry, is Brendan Dillon a 3-4 guy? I don't think so.
His contract says otherwise.
Yes, I know what his contract says, but I don't know.
And I don't know if it's the solution, because something that I've been very critical and very keened in on for as long as Burns has been on the team, and Kevin and I have talked about this before, but some of the decisions that he makes, as good as a player as he can be, some decisions he makes are just ridiculous. I want to say, I really can't remember what game it was. It was one of the ones before the All-Star break, but there were a couple of times where the Sharks are trying to tie the game, right. And
it was the Ranger game.
Yeah, the Rangers, and he's just not even clued in onto what's going on. And I recall at least one very poor attempt at keeping the puck in. Not only that, but I haven't seen him do it lately, but I recall like that first full season where he played forward. I recall a couple of instances where, the Sharks are down a goal late in the game and the puck gets to Brent Burns, and he's, like pulling like half spinoramas and like backhand wrist shots. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not helping at all.
In last night's game, in the third period, I can't remember if the Knights were on the power play or if they just had offensive zone pressure, but I saw Burns skate up to like pressure a player, and then the pass was made in behind him, and rather than try and backtrack and cover the new player with the puck, essentially, Burns sluggishly, like arms up, just like turn around, like, and is examining it, and it's like, okay, you're the defenseman, so nobody should have to tell you get the hell back. That's your number one job as a defenseman, is to play D. So if the puck is in behind you, you should be the first person skating back. And that wasn't even the goal. That wasn't even the game-winning goal. And just right then, it was like, oh no, Burns pretty decent first half of the game, but these tendencies are creeping back in the third. Like,
yeah.
And I would just like to say, for the record, because I know it's probably going to come up, Paul Martin coming back will not fix this.
Here's my question, and this is something I'm not a super smart guy. I probably didn't come up with this on my own. This is probably something that I heard somewhere, and then I went, But my question is how much of a coincidence is it, or is it not coincidence at all, that Brent Burns' defensive game really fell apart after Bob Boughner left for the Florida Panthers?
That is an amazing question that I don't even know how to answer, but I think so highly of Boughner that I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
The argument is, everyone else on the D-core has, well, except maybe DeMello, has been pretty rock solid, and the Sharks have been one of the best defensive teams in the league. So,
yeah, but even that they were pretty good defensively. They were pretty good defensively last year too, and I feel like, with Bugner being back there, I feel like that's where we don't have 2015 Brendan Dillon anymore. I mean, a lot of people still treat him like he's 2015 Brendan. We don't. He's been better, and I wonder how much of that attributes to Bob Bugner, because he was the defensive guy, and it really makes me question and I think it's just, I'm not trying to put someone blame, because I feel like there's way too much BS blame that goes around to everyone but Brent Burns for Brent Burns' ailings. Oh well, Paul Martin's not there. Oh well, Joachim, he doesn't trust Joachim Ryan enough to play better, or and I'm not trying to say, okay, it's Rob Zettler's fault that Burns is not good this season, but it makes you wonder, if you look at the kind of where everything kind of lines up and where did things fall off. I mean, that to me, that's where it is. It's Bob Bugner goes to the Florida Panthers and Burns can't play defense anymore. What do you think, Jerk?
I agree. I mean, you brought up Brendan Dillon, who had an atrocious 2015 with the Sharks, and Bugner comes in, and it wasn't right away, but Brendan Dillon's game progressed in the right direction. Right. that first season with Bob Bugner, and then last year as well. And same could be said about Brent Burns. Brent Burns' play at defense was highly questioned that same year, the year before Bugner came in, and then both of them really tightened it up the last 2 years. And fortunately, the smart defensive tendencies have stuck with Brendan Dillon. I think this is Brendan Dillon's best year in Teal besides last year. And
yeah, I always, I just 10 minutes ago was well, I don't think Dillon's a 3-4 guy, but you have to acknowledge, I don't like Brendan Dillon I don't like Brendan Dillon for the price tag, but he has made progress, and he's not. I don't think he's the, he's no longer the worst D-man out there. Thank you, Dylan DeMello, for taking that role from him.
Well, and it's there were a lot of things Bugner covered. I mean, like you said, the defensive play, which had tightened up, when he came through. Same thing with the penalty kill, which Burns was a fixture on and still is, and that's tightened up. And I absolutely think it's a correlation, whether it's a difference between Bugner and Rob Zettler or what have you. But like I said, Brendan Dillon, it's stuck with Brendan Dillon. He's playing great hockey, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, so you'll kind of just have to do your own research. But there's a reason why the last 2 years Brendan Dillon's been part of the best Corsi 4 D pair, despite having 4 different partners in that time.
Obviously, Joel Ward going out, that's obviously something that happened as well. I'm just trying to move along a little bit because I don't want to go too long tonight. Joel Ward goes down. The first thought that I had to mind was, obviously I think Marcus Sorensen benefits the most from this, but it really made me curious as to, if Yannick Hansen has to draw in here somewhere at some point, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say when you said Marcus Sorensen benefits the most, and I'm like, wait, what about the guy that's on the roster?
Right. Well, that's the thing. If this doesn't benefit Yannick Hansen at all, I really think there's no repairing this, right? This is completely broken at that point. If Joel Ward goes down and Yannick Hansen can't come back in, oh,
do you
man.
think that Barclay Goodrow, in the grand scheme of it, it turned out it was actually Yannick Hansen who kicked Peter DeBoer's dog up when he was still on Vancouver, and that's why the truth came out, and that's why Goodrow's in the lineup all the time?
That's
hashtag TTG5.
TTG5 hashtag, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Obviously, look at Joel Ward. I'm kind of whatever on this year. I respect Joel Ward, the player. I respect Joel Ward, the guy. I'm kind of indifferent. I'm kind of it's a contract that's going to come off the books this year. I don't think he's going to get re-signed. I'd be shocked if he was re-signed by the Sharks.
I'd be shocked if he didn't retire after this season.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I might be a little bit shocked too. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a huge loss, but man, it's just like, what else?
It is in the locker room.
Yeah.
It's a huge loss in the locker room if he's not able to like travel with the team and whatnot.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah, he's definitely like, you watch those the deep videos, and you see all those like little clips that are on Twitter and Instagram. Like, he's definitely a personality, and he's very vocal, and he's very much about like the camaraderie. And so I think from that perspective, I absolutely think the team takes a hit. But you know what, you talked about who benefits the most, and I agree with Kevin. I think the trade deadline is it's in 17 days.
Soon, yeah.
Wow.
I think, this is Hansen's time to, in my estimate, make the choice between getting waived and going to the AHL, or maybe playing well enough to get a trade to a cup team.
Yeah, maybe. All right. I've got to move this along. Okay, so Olympic hockey. Obviously, the Olympics, I believe, I don't know, it started today, I think the opening ceremony was.
The Olympics started yesterday, but this is the sad thing. I don't even know when the tournament actually starts.
I don't know either. But if Russia doesn't win gold, if Russia does not win gold, do they just close? Like, Russia closed. We're not a country anymore.
But Russia can't win gold.
I was going to say, who's Russia? What is that?
Oh!
The artist formerly known as Russia. Or something.
Yeah, but they literally can't win gold because the Olympic athletes of Russia are not a recognized nation. Thus, they are allowed to participate, but they cannot medal.
Right.
Well, and that brings up a funny conversation that Kevin and I had. I asked him, so if Russia wins the tournament, do they win a medal from the Olympics?
Oh, that's right.
I don't know.
Not a gold. No, it's not a gold medal. It's a first place medal from the Olympics.
That's interesting. But if the artist formerly known as Russia does not win, I think they close. Like, you just close the country down. You just go home and never come back, right?
Everybody's paper bags are going to be a little lighter.
Yeah, and family members may go missing. I don't know. I mean, like, I just feel like if they can't win this tournament, then like,
this is something that again, same conversation I had with Hockey Jerk off air. The IIHF never actually released a statement about the Russia situation outside of they're disqualified, and then they said, right, we'll update everyone about the athletes still participating. They never did. So I don't know if they're playing the medal round only, or if because it kind of suck if they go to what's up.
They'd have to go in the round robin.
That's what I meant. The round robin, not the medal round. The round robin only, because it would kind of suck to go to the gold medal game, win that game, and have the losing team win gold. I mean, so. Yeah, it's the IIHF. I'm sure I would think, have this figured out. But somebody, please explain what's happening here.
I don't know. I don't know what happens. Like, why would you compete if you can't win?
What did they say on the Mighty Ducks? It's not worth winning if you can't win big.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Take the second place banner down. No, but I don't understand why. What's the point of competing if you can't win?
For pride, the Olympic passion and pride.
Oy vey.
Just wait, you guys. In 2022, the artist formerly known as Russia is going to go all the way.
Yeah. Hey, Mark-Edward Vlasic made the Olympics though today. Did you see that?
No.
He posted a picture on his Twitter that I guess someone brought the Vlasic bobblehead to Pyeongchang. So Vlasic and his 3 dogs made, and he's like, I made it to the Olympics after all. Basically, screw you, NHL.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and
sorry, go
just
ahead.
to jump on that really quick, I quoted that tweet and I said Vlasic equals goat emoji, and he liked it. So I think I'm in.
That's awesome.
That's a good time. What's your level of excitement for the tournament overall, on the men's side?
I'm really excited for the precursor to the World Championship.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I am. I'm excited about the uncertainty. I've mentioned before, I really think that the competitiveness is going to increase. The talent won't be as good as it would be if there were NHLers there. But you're going to look at guys. Wojciech Wolski's probably too old to be in the NHL, but you're going to look at redemption projects.
What a story there, though.
What's that?
What a story there. With
broke his neck a year ago.
Broke his neck a year. Yeah, I mean, I like that. Like, I think there's some good stories that are interesting. I think that's a good, interesting story to follow. I have trouble finding. I'm having trouble finding my care button. Because all the games are going to be on stupid early anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like I'm having trouble watching NHL games right now. Forget the Olympics. I just can't bring myself to care because it's just like, I'm never going to listen to this argument. Oh, well, at least they threw it back to the amateurs. Yes, the KHL is a bunch of amateurs.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about amateur hockey in Europe. Give me a break. None of those leagues are amateur leagues at this point. They're all making decent money. Like,
yeah.
I hate that argument. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if it gets going, I'm sure if Canada's going okay, I'm sure I'll get into it. But I'm trying really hard to find my give a damn button.
I thought it was very interesting how the OAR team is comprised of guys from only 3 KHL teams and nowhere else.
Well, I think it goes back to past Olympics, when Russia competed, because they always, every Olympics talked about dissension in the locker room. And I would think at this point now, if they're only represented by 3 teams, there's got to be a lot of camaraderie there, unless it's like the 3 teams that all hate each other or something.
It's Magnitka, St. Petersburg, and the Red Army team.
Okay, so basically the 3 best teams in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even then, I think about 50% of that roster is from St. Petersburg.
Jeez.
Besides, with those teams, those players all just move around between those 3 teams anyway, so they probably at one point or another have played with every member on the OAR team.
All right, so I'm gonna. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just want to say, Vadim Shipashev is an Olympian.
Isn't or is?
Is.
Oh, I was gonna say if he wasn't, then maybe Jargolan was onto something when he was the worst center on the team.
If he wasn't, then I would fly my butt over to OAR and figure it out.
Okay.
All right.
We got to ask you guys, and I'm going to ask you in the chat too.
All right.
With a limited knowledge about this tournament and a lot of just speculation and uncertainty, who wins the Olympic tournament?
Gotta be Russia, right? Like
No, but Russia can't. Russia literally cannot.
Well, they can win the tournament. They just can't claim the gold medal.
Okay,
that's really dumb.
But that's really bad. That's why I say they gotta just be the round robin only.
That's stupid. One, just let if they can play and be there, they should be able to take a medal home. They just can't be. They just can't claim it for Mother Russia. Like, I don't know. I think this whole thing's stupid.
Yeah.
Just how soon before the Constitution for Olympic athletes from Russia is written?
I'm gonna go with Sweden. I don't know why. I really don't. I feel like it's gonna be Sweden. So
I think I agree with Ian. I think it's got to be the OAR.
Well, I'm not counting them. So
we're not counting them. Well, if we don't count them, man,
in that case,
I don't know enough. Like it's roll dice. I don't know.
Yeah, just put all the names in a hat.
Yeah, and just whatever one you pick out.
Pull 4 of them out and have a medal tournament.
Maybe they'll summon the Vegas Golden Knights, and it'll be the unified Korean team that wins it all. If they win a game, I'd be shocked. A game.
Yeah,
but I also said that about Slovenia 4 years ago, and they won 4 games. So
I think the Finns could be dangerous. I mean, I don't know. I'm not. I'm not. Canada's a decent team. U.S. has a decent team. It's so hard because it's so hard with a tournament like this to really pick. So I don't really think. I mean, other than the artist formerly known as Russia, I don't know who the favorite would be. All right, we got to end on a. We have to end on a question that we had given to us. It was really a great question. It's from Claire.
Great
Who is
question.
at CCV Bananas on the Twitter machine, and she asks, "Who is to blame for all of the too many men on the ice penalties? Seems like it happens every few games." So I'm gonna go first, and then I'll let you guys agree or disagree with me. It could go three possible ways. There could be three possible blames. Sometimes too many men on the ice penalties are just bad luck because you step on the ice and the next thing you know, the puck comes over towards the bench and there's just nothing you can do. It's just, it gets deflected over there and it's just bad luck. Other times, players not paying attention. I know I have made a few line changes prematurely. Just not paying attention and not realizing it wasn't my turn to go over the boards, and I went anyway and went with somebody else, and next thing you know, it's not a power play, but somehow we have 6 players on the ice, and I go sit in the penalty box. It's happened. And other times it's the coaching, honestly. I mean, the coach generally pokes you, tells you when you're going over the boards, and if he pokes one too many people in the back, then sometimes they all jump. There's really not a specific culprit. I know it's a bench penalty, but there's so many ways that could lead to a too many men situation that it's not really just like a cut and dry. This is always the coach's fault. This is always the player's fault. Sometimes it's just bad luck. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lacey, who plays far more hockey than I do. In the example of last night's game against the Golden Knights, which is, I think, where this is stemming from, I asked myself, as I was watching, the same question. The Sharks were on the power play, and they took a too many men. To me, typically, most too many men penalties occur when a team is under duress, under pressure, and trying to frantically get on the ice to prevent a defensive, a chance in their own zone. The Sharks were on the power play. So you shouldn't, in theory, be under any duress. So how do you have 6 players out on the ice? I'm with Claire on this. That's the coaches. That's coaching, absolutely.
But Vegas later in the game, in the third period, did the same thing, and they got away with it. Shea Theodore was the man coming off. He was almost by the penalty box when Brad Hunt got on the ice. And Theodore went all the way across and then off. So it's like, oh, geez, come on. I know I'm trying to not harp on the officials from last night, but it's just really bad.
But I think, from your experience, though, I mean, I think I covered it pretty good. There's a lot of different ways that you can get it. There's not really usually a single culprit. It's not always the coaches. It's not always the players. Sometimes it's just bad luck.
Yeah. Well, that's a good kind of point of view to show, because like Mr. Lacey, I myself have also played some competitive hockey in my time, and you know what, I recall an instance simply going to the bench, something's happening to where I can't get on the bench right away, and then here comes the puck, and too many men.
I'm one of those guys who will throw the puck up the bench side boards if I see the other team changing. Like that. No. I'm competitive like that. I'm going to try and force them into that situation.
Well, and too, like you said, you mentioned the Sharks being on the power play. I almost think when you're up a guy, I almost think there's an added pressure to score on the power play. So you're kind of saying, no, you got to get out there and take advantage of them being down a guy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Vince G calling you out in the chat, by the way, Kevin.
Calling me out? Oh, sorry, I don't have the chat up tonight, guys, because I'm having connectivity issues. What's going on, Vince?
Too much, man.
Well, Vince called you a cheeky bastard, and then Gen X saying that we're both lazy and we need to haul ass to the bench.
Yeah, I've never gotten to too many men. I've just gotten too many men for just hopping the boards for no reason. I'm just like, it's my turn. No, it's not my turn.
Oh, man.
All right. Final thoughts. Kevin, go ahead.
It's only a half thought because, by the way, Minnesota beat Wisconsin 4-2, but I was hoping Scott Reedy would do something, and basically I heard his name twice, and that was his contribution to the game. But my final thought is that the Champions Hockey League just ended, but unfortunately I don't have an opinion because I'm only through the first period. But to my knowledge, I think Jyväskylä won. Man, announcer's nightmare. It was Vekwa versus Jyväskylä.
It's amazing.
But if what I saw is correct, and they did win, they're the first Finnish champion of the Champions Hockey League, and I think it's great that NHL Network is starting to show these games, because my only experience with it, besides bootleg online feeds, was actually going to a game to see it. So it's nice that they're trying to branch this out more globally. Obviously, North America is...
I remember up here when the lockout was going on, like the big lockout. I know they had it was on the score before it got bought up by Rogers, and I remember that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that was the first iteration of it. So yeah, I don't know. I love when we get to see, like, the college game I was watching tonight. Nice to see some different kind of hockey. So find those random networks on your local satellite or cable provider, and find me on Twitter. I'm at Kevin Lacey 22. Thank you,
Mr. Hockey Jerk.
Alrighty, final thoughts. Well, starting right now, Team Korea and the artist formerly known as Russia are playing a pre-Olympic game.
Oh.
Where? Excellent question. I would check your local pirated internet stream.
We don't condone that, by the way, but we're just telling you how it is.
Yeah, we're not, we're not advocating for that. We're just acknowledging their existence.
Their existence.
Of course. You know what? A lot of teams in the NHL are in turmoil right now, and I think for about 85% of them, it's self-created turmoil, and they could very easily get out of it with a couple of moves in the right direction. Speaking of moving in the right direction, you should move to Twitter and follow me at hockey_jerk. I am not a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, no matter what Vince G tries to spread about me. It's all false.
All false.
And yeah, good things are happening. NHL season moving along. The league, formerly known as the KHL, has their playoffs coming up, so that's gonna be a good one to watch. And who knows, maybe I'll catch some Olympic games. So you should check it out.
Yeah,
Team USA starts Wednesday, by the way.
There you go. Team USA Wednesday. John McCarthy. Go John McCarthy. Unless it's Canada, then you can F right off John McCarthy. And now that I've completely upset our entire listener base, my name's Ian Reed. You can find me on Twitter at IanBlogsHockey. I will be doing some more actual hockey related stuff soon, which is going to be fantastic. Other than that, thanks for watching. I'm hoping that we'll be back sometime around this time next week. But obviously stay tuned and we will let you know. Aside from that, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like what you saw. If you want to take us with you on your phone or in your car or whatever, we appreciate that. We like traveling around. But make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, to make that more easier so that we can come with you wherever you go, because I think that would be really cool. Aside from that, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.